We now take this opportunity to clarify our position regarding the former Secretary General. The leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe has noted several statements and utterances by the former Secretary General, who was removed from the position recently. The leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe had considered these utterances and actions and arrived at a conclusion that the former Secretary General had not only publicly defined himself or themselves outside the ranks and ideological line of the MK party, but also seriously violated the trust placed on them as a member of the party. In this regard, a decision has been taken to summarily terminate the membership of the former Secretary General, and a formal letter of expulsion was transmitted to him on the 15th of July 2025. Umkhonto weSizwe will not entertain any further exchanges on this particular matter. Lastly, on the MK party's path to power, the Umkhonto weSizwe as a party is a vessel of the final phase of our liberation struggle. We are marching towards power, not just to govern, but to liberate. We are building brick by brick, word by word, village by village, institution by institution. South Africans have increasingly affirmed our stance on the GNU, a Trojan horse of recolonization disguised as unity, funded by white monopoly capital and implemented by a coalition of regressive forces. We say no more. MK stands as the last hope of the African child, the worker, the youth, the traditional healer, the church, and the forgotten majority. Our eyes are fixed on the 2026 and our hearts are on the people. With your support, we will rise, not as rulers, but as liberators. The spear of the nation has risen once more. Let those who have betrayed the revolution tremble, and let the oppressed rejoice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, for a comprehensive media statement. We will now take questions from the media, and we'll do it in a round of 5. So we'll start with 5 at the back. I see a hand. Natasha, 2. Moloko, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We have a roaming mic. Thanks. If you could just please state your name and the channel or publication that you represent. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Zoleka Kodashe from Newsroom Africa. I wanted to get the MK Party's reaction to the letter that has been sent by President Cyril Ramaphosa over the letter of demand that was sent on Monday. I understand that there was a letter of demand that was sent with a deadline of 10 a.m. today. The President, as I understand, has responded, not acceding to the demands by the MK Party and its leader, and instead says that those details that are sought are readily available and that the MK Party has already concluded that his conduct in relation to Police Minister or Minister Senzo Mchunu, as well as the acting Police Minister, are unconstitutional and unlawful. Did the MK Party see that letter, and can we just get reaction given the fact that the deadline has expired? Thank you.
Thanks for that. Second hand. It's Natasha.
Hi, thank you. Hi, it's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. I just have a couple of questions. In regards to the former Deputy Secretary General, I believe you all know, just moments before this briefing, there's a letter that was circulating that she has resigned as the Deputy Secretary General of the MK party. Just your reaction on that, and do you perhaps fear that more members might actually jump ship, perhaps from the MK to Maibuye? You mentioned Floyd Shivambu, you've terminated his membership. But I'm just interested in knowing, former President Jacob Zuma, have you perhaps engaged him? Has he sought your audience at all? And then you mentioned in your statement the meeting with Contralesa, but there's a grouping also of traditional leaders that have said that they are cutting ties with the MK party because they feel as if they are being used as political pawns. Has the MK party actually reached out to them and spoken to them? And then you also mentioned the meeting that you had with the ATM, and you mentioned the Comprehensive Partnership Pact. Can you perhaps now detail if any modalities around how you're going to be working together ahead of the 2026 local government elections? You've mentioned also in your statement your stance as the MK party on the US tariffs, but now we know that the South African government, through President Cyril Ramaphosa, had said that all doors are still open for negotiations, right? Do you think, and are you confident as the official opposition that perhaps a deal would be made to actually reduce those 30% tariffs and to avert the bloodbaths of over 30,000 jobs? Thank you, and apologies for the many questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Muluku Mloto from ENCA. I have several questions, but I will try to be quick. To the former President, Jacob Zuma, I just want to understand, considering the fact that at the time when you were at the helm of the African National Congress, their position has always been that the people of Western Sahara must be granted their independence. I want to understand at what point did this change for you? The second question is, there has been, I just want to understand, are you by any chance as the party receiving any money or funding from Morocco? In terms of the leadership turnout, if you were a company, you would be considered to be in crisis. I mean, I personally have lost count of the number of secretary generals, organizers, and staff. Have you been reflecting on what could be internal issues, perhaps, that may need to be attended to, perhaps in order to arrest this particular trend? Lastly, you are speaking about, and correctly so, about the deepening poverty, the decay in the state-owned institutions, and the systemic corruption. A lot of people will agree with you there. But some of you have been at the pinnacle of government before. These issues, are you saying that in your previous responsibilities or roles, you are taking no accountability whatsoever? Is it your argument that you want us to believe that these issues you are correctly raising started after former President Zuma left office?
I'm covered. Thank you.
The third hand.
Yes. My name is Saeed. I'm asking this question on behalf of the Morocco TV channel, Media. My question is to President Zuma, is to what extent might your party's support for Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara is going to impact the broader political stances within your party and among other influential forces here in South Africa?
So can you just repeat that? I didn't think we got it clearly.
To what extent might your party support for Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara is going to impact the broader political stances within your party and among the other influential forces in South Africa?
There's one more over there. There's the fifth hand. Are you covered? Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I would I would also ask that members of the National Leadership Collective also do tackle some of the questions. I did not get your name, Cecilia. All right, Natasha. So ngaze ngamngulimi la kimi. Sasigis. You asked the question about, it's just that I couldn't link it up very well, but you asked the question about the DSG departing. Is true. We have also seen that. We must also take into account that people individually and otherwise they do make choices, their own sort of choices at any given point. So we're okay with that. Towards the end of this session, we will also announce the whole question of how we're dealing with the issue of leadership and leadership reinforcement, so that you'll be better clarified. For an example, so what are we doing with these particular gaps as we have them within the leadership collective and so on. The question of the ATM, I think you also asked the question about the African Transformation Movement, the modalities and everything else. The starting point is that we have this joint working arrangement in the first instance, because they will also go much more into detail about operational issues and technical sort of details informing modalities, for instance, that the two parties would have to adopt in approaching local government elections and any other matter of national interest. As we had indicated, that they will report regularly to the leadership collective of both parties, the African Transformation Movement as well as Umkhonto weSizwe. Let me also just deal with the area of Ubante Umlodo. Okay. And you seem to think that the question of changes at leadership level represent what crisis? If we were a company, yeah, we're very fortunate that we're not, but also even companies, a responsible one, would not view it that way. It would view it as part of the learning process. We just existed for how many months now? 18 months or something, whatever, I don't know. Now, in that process, there's a lot of learning that we have got to take into account as part of our developmental process, for an example. Now, we hope that with the changes that are going to be made, because maybe free of charge, I can volunteer this thing and just tell you, for instance, one of the major weaknesses has been that you attract people to come and perform a duty of public administration, right? Of course, you need public administrators with social consciousness. That's what should inform the question of having a Secretary General into position. Now, we seem to have had problems on that particular front. Now, when I'm talking about public administration, I mean your major focus as a Secretary General is the question of development of standard operating procedures, for an example, and many other regulatory sort of instruments that have got to be put in place, including the whole question of how do you factor in mechanisms that have got to support the work of the organization on an ongoing basis, right? That's the work of a Secretary General. Of course, such a person has got to do that, also informed by a required degree of social consciousness and so on. So I disagree with you when I'm not going to see that as a as a point of instability. It's an undesirable situation, of course. I'm not saying that's what we should have. But if you are in a circumstance where as an organization, something does not work for you, no, you must correct that, right? Now, in fact, because you spoke about companies, in the corporate sector, it is an accepted thing that you'll have a strategy developed, but at the level of implementation, something else comes up. You have an imagined sort of strategic kind of diversion, and is acceptable. And I'm sure also you say to come from NCA. Go and ask them, they will tell you the same. Thank you very much.
I'm going to call on the head of the presidency to respond on the questions regarding Morocco. The man himself.
Thanks, spokesperson. Greetings to the media and the comrades. Any functioning mind changes its position when presented with new facts, scientific facts, and new realities. Now, the reality is the issue of Morocco and Sahara did not start now to be entertained by President Zuma. In 2017, in a delegation I was part of that went to the African Union, where Morocco was readmitted as a member of the AU in January. Soon after that, later in the year, President Zuma had a meeting at the behest of King Mohammed VI of the Kingdom of Morocco to present where their frame of mind was as a country and how South Africa could possibly help in resolving this problem that this year has lasted for over 50 years without any practical solution. That is why in 2018, South Africa reopened its embassy in Rabat, and Morocco reopened its embassy in South Africa to be fully fledged embassies instead of being downgraded to the level in which they were. When Umkhonto weSizwe was formed, President Zuma received many invitations at an international level. The last meeting we had about one of the countries which got problems, we can't at this stage, was yesterday. Members of parliament all over the world, leaders of the world, continue to seek guidance from President Zuma because they've lost confidence in the leadership of South Africa to handle the complex matters of the African continent. Now, President Zuma has a responsibility to lead the debate on areas where he believes South Africa should reconsider its positions on those matters. That is why on the question of Morocco and Sahara, upon being approached by the embassy and the leadership and other countries, and having considered all issues about the unification of Africa, that we can no longer afford to balkanize our continent into small unviable countries when we are confronted with arrogant USA and the West like this. That's what informed President Zuma saying, we have the same problems here at home, where a small group of reactionary Afrikaners want to have their own state called Cape Colony. In the same country, we have Orania that want to present itself as an alternative state. If we are not careful, this problem of a group of people who identify themselves as a tribe wanting to be a fully fledged state will come into our country. Now, MK presents itself as a legitimate voice of progressive forces in South Africa to lead the struggle to unite Africa to be one. And we felt that this burning matter that has lasted for 50 years in the continent must be a starting point to say, yes, the people of Sahara have suffered for the longest time. They wanted their own country. But the challenges we're facing as a continent cannot allow us to have many more countries than we already have. Let the comrade be given autonomy to self-govern like we have in our own country provinces. You can pass the laws relevant to your conditions, municipalities, but maintain the sovereign integrity of Morocco as a country. Now, this one of money, when you can't explain things scientifically, why people have changed their minds, and you don't have better arguments to tell them why they must not change their mind, you must start throwing those stupid insults that we are getting money that we have not received. I've been fortunate to be part of the engagement from the beginning. There is no money promised, no money given, no money requested. We have tabled here the outcomes of the many progressive engagement that President Zuma had with the leadership there to open channels for South Africa to trade with a very strategic country geographically in the continent. Now, it's not true that we have sold out the revolution. It's not possible. The country's foreign policy is directionless. And President Zuma and MK have taken a responsibility to lead in that regard. And when we lead, we expect those who can lead to attack President Zuma, attack MK, but the kind of messages we're getting in the continent tells us that we're on the right path. Specifically on this one of Sahara, those who take time to research the latest development, the position presented by MK is beginning to be supported by more than half of African states currently. Not historically, currently. Now, we'll continue to lead. By the time the comrades join us, we'll all be celebrating one and united Africa led by President Zuma. Thank you.
I will take the question on the response from Mr. Ramaphosa. Mr. Ramaphosa responded on time. And I think that's important. It demonstrates that he takes President Zuma seriously and Mkhonto Sizwe very seriously. He responded on time. But sadly, his response, he is running away again from answering the questions. Basic questions that we've raised with him. The questions we raised was, he said he's appointing Professor Kachalia as per section 91(3)(c) in an acting capacity. There is no such thing in the Constitution that allows a president to appoint someone in acting. There was no such thing. It was a simple question that was asked. We then asked him, At the point at which he then appointed Professor Kachalia, he refers to him as a minister designate. Which one is it? Acting minister, minister designate, or minister? It's confusing. So those are some of the questions that we asked him. But again, we can't expect more from a person who himself is a constitutional delinquent. Because all that he's ever demonstrated to date is constitutional delinquency and nothing else. The way forward, I know, is some of the questions that have been asked. We will obviously take it in consultation with our lawyers and make a determination with the leadership as to what the next steps are. But I think what's important is that it must be stated, Ramaphosa responded on time to our letter. Thanks.
No, thank you very much, Program Director, ladies and gentlemen. I need to deal with the one last part of the... unless they still want to ask some questions.
We're still going to respond to
No, because I needed to deal with the last part regarding the... Yeah, okay. And I need to deal with the directive by the president that I must then announce the leadership collective. I'm informed that the president remains the president. I don't know what the clapping is all about, but I was I'm starting my announcements, okay? And that the deputy president, Dr. Sope, remains the deputy president, all right? And that we have had some gaps in the leadership collective. The Secretary General is one particular position that is vacant, and it's now going to be filled by Dr. Bongani Mngwango. Now, Dr. Bongani Mngwango has a 35-year executive experience. He's a former chief executive officer at Sanlam Healthcare, a former chief executive officer at Netcare 911. He was also chair of, maybe still is, I don't know, of the Kwabe Traditional Council. Abagi Tigela. So he must then come this end, come to this end. Hello, sir. Sir, we'll move.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. For the... Okay. That's my name is in Towas of Yeah. Now, for the Deputy Secretary General, he has quite a huge experience in both the public sector and the political management space. Comrade Nomsa Dlamini. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Now, Uh, I do appreciate why there is Lentlowo Mekon. You know, she's gonna make a contribution in improving the public face of this table. Okay. Yeah, we're exactly with beauty. That's it. Now, one other change, comrades, that's being effected is that the current national organizer is moved over to a portfolio to manage and coordinate policy coordination, Comrade John Lela. Now, and therefore that leaves the area of national organizing vacant. We then have a comrade who has an experience in local government and the public sector, and we think that that experience is going to augur quite well for us as an organization in approaching the 2026 local government elections. Comrade Alec Nkuna. Welcome, Comrade Alec. So, thank you very much. Comrades, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot two other particular positions. The deputy chair remains deputy chair. Comrade Mpot. And of course, the Treasurer General, Comrade Mpia Kelimba, remains Treasurer General. I'm still going to ask the president about the national chair. I'm still going to ask him about that. But having said that, comrades, we expect the leadership collective to assist in developing and institutionalizing the organization. And that the major part of work is around policy development, which is the area that Comrade Lela is going to take charge of. But also critically, the organization must know how it works and how it has got to work. And it is only through technical sort of interventions, as I said, your procedures, your systems, your this, that, and so on. And that's the central focus of the SGO. And that all of us, as part of the leadership collective, we are not the equivalent of the president. We are there to reinforce and bolster the public image of Umkhonto weSizwe, and that image rests with the president of the party. And that's why he deals with so many things, including the issue of international relations, and so it goes. So I thought, let me just say that it's only the president that can confirm my situation. Thank you very much.
Amandla, congratulations to the new leadership. I'm sure you are wanting to ask questions again now. I can see. With a raise of hands. 1, 2, oh, Milan Guardian. 3. Oh, your question on paralysis. Paralysis analysis is the problem. You're the third. Okay. The first question. Is there someone at the back? The fourth one.
Thank you. I'm Khawelo Magolego from UFM. Firstly, your reaction to what is going on with the national dialogue. I think you would have noted that some foundations have pulled out because they are not happy with how it's being conducted, the preparations thereof, to be specific. And also your detailed response to what is happening with that Russian vessel that is stuck in Cape Town. Apparently, the personnel there does not have a passports, therefore they were not allowed to disembark. Just the MK comment on that. And also a reaction, a response rather, to a series of allegations that have been made by your former Secretary General, Floyd Shivambu. He could be making another allegation as we speak. But most importantly, the one that money just gets taken from MKP accounts monthly and nothing is being done, that he is the one that tried to sound alarm and was probably ejected from the party for that reason. Finally, and apologies for asking so many questions, just give your own reflection of yourself, because there seems to be a sentiment that as an official opposition, MK has given a rather poor account of itself, particularly in parliament. We've seen a recent blunder where the caucus did not understand what it was voting for. Any other issue that you have had to handle in parliament, as to how have you done so far in your own assessment?
No, thank you very much. My name is Lunga, and I'm from the Mail and Guardian. Spokesperson, I think this one will involve yourself. Maybe you will help me assist in answering this. I just want to find out if the leadership did discuss, because from what I was told by some sources is that there should have been a discussion in regarding your behavior and Ms. Duduzile Sambula Zuma in the national officials meeting on how they go forward. And just maybe to ask on the chair to say, has there been any disciplinary hearing against the two names that I've mentioned here? Thank you very much.
There's another question.
Oh, that one.
Chair, there's still another question. Another two.
Okay, mine, it's only two questions. My name is Diseto from PEM News. The first one is the use of South African flag during Mr. Jacob Zuma's visit in Morocco drew so much attention. Even the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, on behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa, strongly protested the use of South African national symbols. But it constitutes an abuse of existing protocol and decorum and undermines official bilateral relations between the Republic of South Africa and the Kingdom of Morocco. So my question is that, was it a mistake that the flag was on display, or the president knew, or the former president knew what he was doing by displaying the flag of South Africa? And then the second one, the national convener of Maibuye Africa says he's still a member of the Umkhonto weSizwe party. So I believe if it was just an ordinary member, you could have dealt with the situation rapidly. Is he still a member or not? Oh, okay, no, it's fine.
I'm Itumeleng from the Citizen. With all due respect, I would like to know why now? I mean, Floyd Shivambu has been making all sorts of statements and the situation has been tense for some time. Why act now? And on the Morocco issue, it looks like the South African government does not have an issue on MK policy, but the issue is the flag. Will the MKP continue to raise that South African flag, or you think you'll stop? Thank you.
They own the flag.
You said you're from the citizens, say? Okay, I'm sorry I can't see you because Bamile, I'm a camera, yeah. We asked comrades. No, sorry, you're not comrades. I forgot. But the flag belongs to us. Now, I don't know where this story comes from that the flag belongs to government. No, it doesn't. The state is us, right? So next time around, when we talk about this more, Bunny, my piece, yeah, but my piece, my bigger, my fisa, sorry, yeah. Okay, no, sorry, won't call them put. When I'm a first, next time you'll find me carrying a flag in my car. Are you going to have a problem with it? Dispute that and say, why am I having my country's flag in my car? We're born a little. Yeah, for my lines, right? Now, there's the question from, I can't remember who it was, about the money being stolen or siphoned. Was it Melen Guardian? A big fan of But the question is this. The meeting of national officials sits every second week. So what does it tell you? It tells you that we sit 2 times a month. I think that's what it says. Then you have a chief executive officer in the form of somebody that we call a secretary general. Sits for months in the position and does not report to this collective, this leadership, to then say, hey, there is money that is disappearing every month to the tune of about, I think he branded something like 7 million a month, right? Now, and this is exactly, it is at the center of leadership responsibility and administrative responsibility, this point that I'm raising, right? Okay, suppose we were too ugly for him to report this thing, this stealing, right? And maybe intimidating or something. So why not report a crime with the police? Because this is stealing. We're talking about stealing here, right? So how come we are not reporting this theft with law enforcement agencies to then say there's money that is being stolen by somebody in MK, and so on and so it goes, and you're not doing that. Now, anybody, including our new SG here, once you're a Secretary General, you also bear something called the fiducial responsibility, which means, amongst other things, all these other matters of financial management, they also are within your purview and you need to report on a regular basis on them, right? You carry policy responsibility when it comes to that. So for me, and I think for us actually, it's quite strange that this thing gets said after some months. It must have been taking place or something, but it's not reported to us, it's not reported and registered with the police. So something is wrong at that particular level. But also the Treasurer General will also shed some light on this, because we have just, if I'm not mistaken, we've just gone through an audit. We've just gone through an audit, and we're still attending to some few outstanding issues from an auditing point of view. And I keep on asking him, where's the 7 million? TG, Muplo 7 million. And it doesn't come up, all right? So how come you have this audit outcome, which is conducted quite elaboratively right across the organization, but it doesn't pick up the stealing? Now, lama auditors ba ukuthi kanti enze njalo akakwazi ukuyibona lento, kusho ukuthi ungadinga-ke sihlukane now in a way, because at the center of auditing is also finding out mishaps and everything else about issues of finance and financial management. So for me, that's an anomaly, but perhaps I will still be further educated about this thing. Somebody said something about accountability, the trip and whatever. You see, ladies and gentlemen, angikhuluma ngimsukele ngesibom umlodo ngiyakuprovoka manje. Now, there is no way that your company ENCA will find out that you are in Zambia without the knowledge of your immediate supervisor, your top executive management structure. There's no way. Now, when you talk of accountability, because sometimes the accountability, we call as if politics is the manner of doing things and reporting accordingly. So in this instance, you can't be outside the borders of the country without necessarily declaring that you are indeed there and you're actually sanctioned by the organization, even if you are, what do you call this thing? You want a jowl or something. We keep healing, even if that is the case, you still have a duty to report to a structure that you belong to, that between this day and that day, I will not be around the country, I'll be outside, right? So, and that's the issue about accountability. Now, you are saying, for those of us that were in government, and for the things that did not work out there at policy level, policy implementation level, and so on, we are not taking accountability. We're not taking accountability about that. We have never said that we are not taking accountability. And part of the reason why we are moving in the manner in which we do is because we've seen things, we've experienced them. So we know what works and what doesn't work, right? So it is just one of those natural cause of action that if you are on a path that you think is working and you discover that, hey, further down the line, this thing is not working, change course. So, so when you can't stand here, when I'm lot, and say, because we're viewing the current policy framework in a different way now than the time when we were there, so it means we're not taking accountability. I think you're probably misreading this thing, the way I see it. But nevertheless, and I'm sure we are now convinced that we are not what you think we are. The question of the NDC, perhaps somebody will, TG, I would ask you to come in also on the question of just the financials as things stand, particularly because nakho phela kuthiwa seba le mali. Now, if somebody tells me that the national disciplinary process had taken place, and that report is forthcoming to this particular collective of the leadership. So, as and when we are ready to make an announcement with regards to that, we'll certainly do that. But at this stage, the process is underway, and there is a report that is forthcoming towards the national leadership. Comrade TG, please do come across.
Sanbonan, and greetings. I think the former SG wanted to say he left us with a debt of 28 million. That's the mistake he made. From where we are sitting, comrades and colleagues, in terms of finance, we appointed Nduma Consulting Company that is qualified chartered accountants and auditors, so that we can have an independent view in terms of our finance before an AG comes in. That was done. Indeed, we do have some findings at any other auditing. Remember, the purpose of auditing is for continuous improvement so that we can have proper system in place, particularly that we are the new party. We do have some findings that is more focused on our bookkeeping than really to say there's any form of corruption. And it need to be highlighted that I did not actually to respond in such allegations. Chair was forcing me on a daily basis. Saying, I don't want to entertain allegations because the person that is coming with allegation was fully accountable for the Treasurer's office for the past 5 months. Unless where I'm sitting, he did something, he was able to hide it very well. So from where we are sitting in terms of auditors, we have any major findings that are there, but we do have areas where they are of concern for improvement for bookkeeping. Thank you.
I think that about closes it, unless if there's anything else, because we respond to everything. We're always ready. Yeah? The head of presidency was reminding me on the issue of the flag. I think I'd want him to respond, because this misconception about the flag and how it was, I mean, from the last time I checked, President Zuma didn't carry a flag in his bag when he flew to Morocco.
Yeah, thanks, spokesperson. I think we'll have to close on this thing of a flag at one stage. DERCO only responded yesterday after the National Executive Committee meeting of Kwagogo. We've been back from Morocco for almost 2 weeks. The only person who was making noise is the Secretary General of the 40-person party. Now, we only answering because it seems like South Africans are concerned about their national symbol, not because DERCO is making noise, because DERCO has a responsibility to confront the USA, and they're not doing that. They are monitoring the movements of President Zuma. We've got a vessel from Russia, a BRICS partner, that can refresh in Cape Town. But people who are here in this country, illegal immigrants, are roaming the street every day. Now, South Africa is leaderless in the international community. President Zuma has taken it upon himself to fly the South African flag very high where it belongs to be. Now, so that we don't get asked these questions all the time, in the next 2 weeks, President Zuma is in Ghana. South African flag will fly there. Before the end of the year, President Zuma will be in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Countries that South African government does not have relations with because they are saying they took power through military actions. MK says they took power for revolutionary reason, therefore they must be supported. Now, when we go there, we are closing a vacuum in the continent. There's a vacuum. Now, when we go there, President Zuma is not representing his personal interest or a narrow MK party interest. It's an interest of the country. And the country has a symbol, which is a flag. So when we go into those countries that don't have a relationship with South Africa, the national flag will rise high, the MK party flag will be on the table. So we carry two flags. And we wish to encourage every South African as they travel throughout the world, artists, players, private citizens, to please carry the South African flag high. We need to close the space. That's all. I think we won't be talking much responding to Derko about the flag. Our interest is not in Derko. It's with the people of South Africa carrying the flag whenever they go, because the vacuum is too huge. President Zuma can't close it alone in the international space. Thank you.
I'm going to call upon President Zuma to say a couple of words. If you will stand as members, please.
Sanibonani. Thank you. Kuthiwa nginibingelele nje kuphela. No. Ngiyanibingelela bandla, siyajabula ukuthi sibonanile. Ngiyajabula ukuthi nibuzile imibuzo yonke nayithola zonke impendulo. Ngimangalile ke mina mangizwa obaba laba nomama kuthiwa benze njani konje, balalela indaba bese beyixoxa. Okay, yeah. Bebuza indaba ye-flag. Ngithuke kabi. Ukhona umuntu ongazi South Africa ukuthi i-flag of any country belongs to the citizens of that country. Khona bengazi lona. Nani impela nize niyawubuza nje lo mbuzo serious. Hawu kwahleni bu. Every country has a flag with its color. Every citizen owns that flag. It's not a government. Not a government. Government uthola likhona lapho. Nani impela niyabuza nje. Hawu nangidumaza. Hawu bakwethu. In any way, thank you very much for coming. We thought in our meeting, kufanele sibe nalesikhathi nje ke sithi ukuxoxa. Nanibuze, nathi siphendule, njalo njalo. Kumnandi ke ukuba nani. Inkinga nje ukuthi sengathi nina ngesinye isikhathi manibuza imibuzo, ngiye ngize ngibone hawu ukuthi bahlala la eSouth Africa. Abayiboni ukuthi iyashintsha eSouth Africa.
ayishintshi bakwethu nithuleleni nini nithuleleni ayishintshi awusho yini ngashintshi ake ngibuze wena ke manje yini ngashintshi khuluma nange seyifihla bandla siyabonga okwami ukubonga nje siyabonga ukuthi sibe kanye nani namhlanje sophinda sibe kanye nani njalo nje nazi kahle ukuthi iSouth Africa iyashintsha ungakuboni lokho okwakhe uyosala ngapha komfula thina sesingaphesheya akunjalo ya ngiyajabula ke futhi ukuthi nazi insizwa nentombi abashasha yazi ukuthiwa hayi lo xosha abantu njalo nje akuzeli uzodlala thina la umudlala sidlala thina sithatha iSouth Africa ingakho nje singeke size elokuzeni econference ene imali zabelungu ezithi votela lowa ngeke masihlangana uzwa kuthiwa sihlangene manje kobe ngiyena lento kade ngisho kuyobe kuyithi sihlangene sizothi how are we taking our party forward bese silungisa lokho nje uma ungezwe emadlebeni soda awugudlukeke wena asinandaba sikusho futhi lokho futhi nenhlanhla ngoba bangikhuza ngabe sengixosha abantu abaningi ngabe ngakhuzwa lezi labaholi laba bathi awume kancane solungisa siyabonga ama-comrade ukuthi nibe khona thank you very much nazi ukuthi we are building a party we are just 1 year few months we are building it amanye ezinye izinto okufanele ngabe senzela senzanga ngamabomu futhi sasafuna ukubona ukuthi kunjani ngazi nje ukuthi yithi laba singeke siyaba abanye abantu sohlala sinje siyajabula ninake bafowethu nodadewethu nisho nje ngelinye ilanga ukuthi hawu siyajabula ukuthi umkhonto wesizwe wafika bakwethu engathi wena wesisi wena sisi ungabe nesibongo mkhobo wake washelwa ngelinye ilanga thank you very much bakwethu siyabonga